The most important thing to understand about me is that I am not a born entrepreneur. Do we have any born entrepreneurs in the house? All right, it's interesting. If I ask that in reverse order and I ask first who's a born entrepreneur, I get a lot of hands. But if I confess that I'm not one, all right. So you guys are my people. I am not a born entrepreneur. By nature, I am insanely lazy. And everything that you're going to hear about today, and you think I'm kidding and I'm not, everything that you're about to hear is how I overcome my innate laziness. All of the things that I've accomplished in my life are because I finally got so fed up that I realized that I had to make some very dramatic changes in my life. From 2010 to 2013 alone, the company that my partners and I founded grew by 57,000%. That was in manufacturing. We ended up at number 2 on the Inc. 500 list. We went from $0 in revenue to being valued at over $1 billion in less than 5 years. Thank you. The question is how? And that should be the question that you guys are asking today. And everything that I'm going to talk about, it's got the backdrop of business success. It's got the backdrop of financial success. But to me, it doesn't matter what it is that you want to do. The mindset is the same. No matter what you're trying to accomplish in life, it comes down to your ability to manage your own brain chemistry. And the thing that you have to understand about humans, we are the ultimate adaptation machine. It used to be believed that we had all this stuff that they called junk DNA, and they were so surprised when they looked at the human genome. They put all this money into sequencing it, and they thought, we're going to really understand things. And then they realized that we only have 20,000 genes when an onion has 40,000. And they said, how can that be possible? Are you really asking me to believe that an onion is more complicated than a human being? And then suddenly, somebody said, hey, maybe we should actually look at this junk DNA and try to figure out what it does. And what they realized is that junk DNA is what they call epigenetics. It's how you respond to your environment. That's what makes humans so great. We have this massive ability to change. We're the only animal that you can find anywhere on the planet. James Cameron at one point was at the bottom of the Marianas Trench, the deepest part of the ocean. We have people right now running research in Antarctica. You're not going to find any other species that can traverse that much diversity, and we do it because we have the ability to change. And that's what I want to talk about. I went from broke to building $1 billion business entirely by changing my mindset. If you guys want to follow a path and become the greatest of all time in your field, you have 2 jobs. Job number 1, develop your mindset. How do you do that? The first thing you have to understand is that the Matrix has you. Who's seen the Matrix? All right, you're really my kind of people. The Matrix is the perfect analogy for a limiting mindset. Now, when you think about the human animal as an adaptation machine, you have to really understand what are the mechanisms by which we change. Those mechanisms are driven largely by our minds. Our minds are incredible. It's considered by most people in the scientific community to be the single most complicated thing in the universe. Not on this planet. Think about a black hole. Think about the complexities of dark matter. We don't even understand it. And yet, the people looking at those problems that understand quantum physics say the only thing that's more complicated than all of that is the human mind. And it's going to be your job to learn how to force it to adapt in a way that works for you. Now, this is the most important thing that I'm going to say today. And if you embrace this, it will fundamentally, forever, and for the better change your life. You must decide. You must decide that you can get good at anything. Now, the part on this that I want you to understand is it is a decision. Belief is a decision. People think that belief is based on the truth, but I'm going to say something, and it's going to immediately ring as true because you probably heard it before. You're 5 times more likely to believe negative information than you are to believe positive information. Right? Have you guys heard that before? If I say something nice to you, and then somebody comes along and says something negative to you, you're more likely to believe and internalize the negative thing. Because of that very fact, I have very little interest in what is objectively true. The human animal is really bad at understanding what is objectively true. So because of that, if you want to be successful, you're going to have to accept that your beliefs are decisions. You're deciding to believe that negative thing. You're deciding to discount positive things. That's a decision. So you can decide that you can get good at anything, or you can say, no, there are limits. Whichever you do, the famous Henry Ford quote, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you are absolutely right. Let that one sink in because it'll change you once you really understand. All right, here are the methods to developing new skills. One, always be reading. I am obsessed with the mathematical equation II equals IO. Ideas in equal ideas out. If you really want to get great, if you really want to gain mastery in something, you're going to have to encounter a lot of ideas. I do what I call reading in swarms. When I pick a topic that I want to get truly great at, I don't want to become a parrot to one person's ideology. I want to make sure that I have a breadth of knowledge in that. But make no mistake, one thing you're going to hear me talk about through this entire talk, and one of the most important things you could possibly understand if you want to dominate at whatever it is that you're going to do, you've got to become so good they can't ignore you. You've got to become so good that they can't ignore you. Now, here's the problem. People reach out to me all the time. Tom, I'm doing X, Y, Z, and I'm just not getting any traction. What's the truth of the matter? They're not good enough yet. They can, by definition, be ignored. Your job, whatever it is that you want to be the best parent, the best teacher, run a big business, change education. That's become very popular. Somebody's going to do it. It needs to be done, but it's going to be done by the person that really understands what it takes to do that and gets so effective at putting out the most capable students that people adopt their methodologies because they work. Every day, all I'm thinking about is how can I get better? I encourage my team, many of whom are here, I encourage my team to give me aggressive and negative feedback in as public a forum as humanly possible. Because I want to know. I want to know what my blind spots are. And my ego, while it is massive, is not built around being right. It is not built around being smart. I focus on this, and this is the most important thing you can do. Become anti-fragile. Nassim Taleb wrote a book by that name, and he said, something that is anti-fragile is not something that is strong. It is not something that is resilient. It is something that grows stronger the more that it's attacked. Things that are strong, things that are resilient, they are ultimately defined by their breaking point. Something that is anti-fragile doesn't have a breaking point because the more you come after it, the better it gets. Values and identity drive behavior. People often look at their behavior and they want to start there. They want to change their behavior by manhandling it, by doing something manual to, let's say, get up earlier. So they set an alarm to address the behavior. But then what happens? They hit the snooze alarm. And the reason they hit the snooze alarm is because they haven't addressed their identity. Addressing your identity and changing your identity is bizarrely simple. And this is how I do it. I'm the type of person that gets out of bed in 10 minutes or less once I've realized that I'm awake. Now, why did I create that part of my identity? Because I used to lay in bed for up to 3 hours because it was too cold, okay? So think about this. When I was, not kidding, wish I were, because it's actually really embarrassing for me. When I was 22 and I'm, 15 years away from being very successful, I'm laying in bed for up to 3 hours simply because it's too cold to walk across the room to put a sweater on. And I didn't even think to put the sweater next to the bed. So I had to manipulate my identity. And now to be proud of who I am, I need to act in accordance with that part of my identity. This is all building towards being proud of who you are for something that moves you forward. Once I started doing that, once I filled myself with humility, once I allowed admitting that I was wrong to fill me with pride, once learning something new from an unexpected place not only filled me with pride but got me excited, then I was on a real path towards mastery. And remember, the only thing that matters is getting so good they can't ignore you. You need a belief system that's going to feed into that. The next one is you have to develop grit. Becoming the greatest of all time is very, very hard. The struggle is guaranteed, success is not. That's just the hard, cold truth. So you're going to have to find a way to persevere. Now, if you guys haven't read Angela Duckworth's book, Grit, I highly recommend it. It is absolutely brilliant. And what she talks about in that book is sustaining interest over time is the key. You have to be willing to do the hard things. No one ever got great at something on an easy road. It just doesn't happen. Look at the greatest of all time. Let's talk about Michael Jordan. He is literally the paragon of achievement. But who knows Tim Grover? Give it up for Tim. Now, if you know Tim Grover, you know that Michael Jordan, on the last day of his professional career, went to Tim Grover and said, and Tim was the guy that trained Michael Jordan, he went to Tim and said, if I ever see you in my neighborhood again, I'll shoot you. Because that's how grueling it was to work with Tim Grover. But that's what Michael Jordan knew he had to do in order to become the greatest of all time, to be remembered.